for life.
What is up? It is Wednesday, Friends Day, March 18th, 2026. You have myself and you have Justin from Donut Shop as your host today. How you doing, Justin?
What's up, everybody? Good morning. Good morning, Mike. It's not a broadcast
Good.
if we're not running a little late.
Yeah, we got to run a little late. Don't forget to check out our sponsors. Go to ghostbed.com/antihero for 10% off the best bedding you ever buy. Coolant, patented technology sheets, pillow toppers, mattresses, free shipping. Tyler says they have over 60,000 five-star rating and reviews now, so that means it's even better than it used to be. So go to ghostbed.com/antihero and use code, or that's the code, and you get 10% off and elevated silence. If you want to have a nice silent session at the range, which is really good because when everybody's shooting around you, you understand how loud that can be. And Jim's silencer, they're not called silencers, Jim's
Suppressors
are top notch. He's taken us out. We've shot him. So go to elevatedsilence.com, use code antihero15 for 15% off. 22 all the way up to a 50 cal. They are the best. Jim is the best, and he will walk you through the entire process to get your cans. So go check out elevatedsilence.com. Jim loves you guys. You know, Jim's not a first responder or a military guy. Jim is a supporter of blue collar Americans and first responders. So he is a huge contributor to our network and just a really good guy. Our guest is a little older, so we'll see if the link went to his spam or what's going on with that. But you have us to entertain you until he comes on.
So what are we asking? If Justin's old enough to podcast? Yes, I am old enough to podcast. I'm 43 years old, if that means anything.
Shit on in my comment and my DMs before we came on.
Yeah. Oh, so you are going to talk about it.
I'll talk about it a little bit before why we're killing time. The big level of like anti-hero, I don't even check comments. I don't even worry about everybody shitting on me there. But locally, my episode drops at noon today on Copperville, and another episode update on the sheriff and his buddy. And I got one of the captain's buddies is just up my ass. The whole normal routine they go through. You're a disgraced cop. You hate cops. Didn't you get demoted? Didn't you have to resign? Like all the normal stuff. I'm like, yeah, check out my podcast. I can cover all that. And they threaten me and all that stuff. And
but coming in with like old news, like old shit. It's like, yeah, hey, where have you been the last 2 years?
And I always say, come on. I'm like, if Cliff is the sidekick, and I'm like, tell him to come on. He can talk about it. You come on and talk. It's a fake profile or just a picture. And then I always end with thanking them for following me, support. I start saying dumb shit. Then I send them like a sponsor picture and say, don't forget to check out my sponsors. And then usually how it goes.
I love it.
USA let us down last night.
Totally. Completely.
And you have no idea how bad USA let us down last night because G Money was going to rock the world with his.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I mean, so we're talking about the World Baseball Classic in Miami last night. Was the final between the Team USA and Venezuela. So it was billed politically as a little bit of a Venezuela versus USA, but then you've got this hot streak of United States winning. You've got Team USA for women's hockey, men's hockey, both winning the Olympics. That even the sled hockey from the Paralympics, those guys won. So it was like a big deal. And then coming into the game last night, all the U.S. hockey team sweaters or jerseys got sent, and so these guys all walked in on their walk-in wearing U.S. hockey jerseys that supposedly were the game-winning hockey jerseys. I don't know why they would send that shit, but okay. So that was pretty fucking cool. And, so there was like all this hype and buildup. But you've got to know, for those that don't and maybe didn't watch the game, you've got the highest population of Venezuelans non-living in Venezuela live in South Florida. Yes. So that was a home game for Venezuela, if I've ever heard one or seen one. And U.S. tried to help out, but the game was not there.
The USA looked flat. Venezuela looked like they wanted to be there. USA looked tired, like they were just kind of going through the mode. Judge 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts, and it took them to the 8th inning when Harper hits a 2-run home run to tie the game,
Bring
and
them to tie it up. Yeah.
right away give it back in the next inning and lose. And it was just like they just didn't look. I didn't see the fire in Team USA like I saw from the Venezuelan players. Everybody, it just didn't look great.
Yeah, I mean, a funny thing or cool thing, personality wise, you got Pat McAfee, who does an afternoon show on ESPN and on YouTube. He did his own show in Indianapolis and then flew to Miami and was at that game with some of his boys from his show. I mean, someday maybe Anti-Hero will be that big that you guys can fly to an event right after doing the broadcast. But
maybe I'm gonna
yeah,
try
working on it.
We keep
working on it. So yeah, it was cool to see that he was there, but he was super disappointed because he was really pushing it on his show, in the lead up to the event. And it's been not a small event, but not a very big deal, but it's a tournament. It's a preseason tournament before spring training, or kind of as part of spring training for these guys. I just think it's a little odd. I don't know the complete makeup of Venezuela, their baseball team, but most of their guys live and work in the United States. So,
yeah, I was trying to
that's kind of a thing.
My wife's like, so here's my wife's take on it. She's like, this is all fraud. She's like, they live in America. She's like, they're American.
Yeah.
I don't care where they come from. She's like, they might be Venezuelan. She's like, but without America, this would be a Nick rant. Without America, she's like, they don't have a job. They're paid. This is bull. She's like, they should all be playing for America unless they live in Venezuela. And I was trying to explain like the World Cup and how that we're in hockey. And she's like, I don't care. She's like, they're in America. They're American. So she was, it was pretty funny explaining it to her. But
yeah. No, I mean, it's a fair argument. It's those are things that I want to think about, but ultimately I'm just like, hey, I'm just proud to be an American and I'm here and live in America. And I'm glad that people can come over here and have opportunities to play sports and better themselves. And, it means that our guys got to work harder. But, I mean, we have a huge talent pool. I've dealt with it a lot in soccer because I'm a big soccer fan and I watch all the shit or the lack of shit that happens with soccer in America. And you'd think we could be the best, but there's a lot of other sports. We have a lot of opportunity in America, and it gobbles up the youth and they play all kinds of sports.
Yeah. So you're right. And we own like major sports, obviously, other than like soccer. That is huge over in Europe, like those European leagues and all that. But we own all the other major sports, and it's like other than Japan's baseball is legit. A lot of the Japanese players stay there. They make really good money. A few, obviously, the Ohtani's come over, but every other country, obviously, very poor, doesn't have their entire world is to make it to the United States to get paid real money to be a player. So I don't knock the hustle. But I can see the argument like, well, now you're an American, you're an American citizen, you came here, like I see somebody can make this statement that, well, now you're going to go play for your country.
I read an article leading up to the baseball classic that, it's pretty interesting because they, baseball, America's pastime. And we talk about America and stuff like that. And then we're kind of like, well, how did the sport grow in these odd places, there? And the thing is it's American influence in those places. You've got GIs that are living in Japan that are bringing the game of baseball, after World War II and stuff over to Japan. And so they're learning about baseball and then they're playing it. And Japan doesn't necessarily, I'm going to maybe speaking out my ass, but Japan doesn't necessarily have like national sports or, major sports. So baseball became huge, other than maybe wrestling. But, and then you've got these, Latin American countries or, like the islands like Cuba, Dominican Republic that have huge baseball, growth, and it's because of American influence in those countries and how it grows into there. You've got American influence in Venezuela pre communism that was the oil industry coming down there. So people are moving down for the oil industry and they're living there and they're running companies down there, and then they bring baseball to those countries. So it's a pretty interesting article.
I respect the hustle. I mean, obviously you're in a poor country. a regular job there. You're never going to be rich. You're never going to be, unless you get in the government or whatever. And a lot of those governments are corrupt or have issues. So it's like, what can I do? So these guys start at like 4 or 5 years old, and that's all they do. And just from podcasting weekly, my easy first world problems, it's hard to do the same thing over and over again. It gets redundant. It gets old sometimes. And it's like, these kids are like becoming like massive, athletes that are like scouted at 14. They're so far ahead of like the times and how hard they work. So I can never knock that. Like, I see a country where these guys are making $25-30 million a year, and I have to learn to play this sport, which isn't easy. Obviously, if it was easy, everybody would do it. So it takes years of dedication, practices, all that hard work. I don't ever knock that, man. You come back, you come here, and then
So and then you think about baseball, and I think back to my youth of the Sandlot, watching them run around the town to just buy a baseball because they lost a baseball and they're scraping up coins. So baseball is one of those easy things that you kind of similar to soccer, where you need 2 goals and a ball in a field, and that's all you need. And so that's why soccer's easy to grow even in the poorest areas. Baseball, you need, because they've got stick ball too that you can kind of play and get the semantics of baseball down. But you just need a stick or a bat and a ball. You can catch the ball barehanded, but if you got a glove or a mitt, you can kind of do it. Versus the hockey of the world, which is like one of those rich sports, or I'll go all the way rich, wouldn't go polo this or horse racing, but you've got to own a lot more equipment for hockey. You've got to own a lot more equipment, even sometimes for football, except for flag football.
Yeah. And the rules, like think about, like, it's a little harder to throw a baseball game together where 9-on-9 rules, umpires, versus soccer. They set up, like you said, 2 poles on each side and throw a ball down. But they, it's obviously easier to learn, not easier, but more easy to organize and get together and learn that skill. Then obviously baseball takes a lot of other things. So
for sure.
All right. Looks like our
all right.
guest,
Well,
ready.
Looks like our. And if the chat can chime in, I'm getting like a little bit of like a lag or whatever once in a while. If the chat wants to chime in on it, let me know if you're hearing it. If not, I'll just power through. I'm not in my car today.
I'm going to give you this is Patrick Brosnan. He's a Fox News commentator, a longtime NYPD cop. I talked to him last week. He was brought to us by G Money. This dude's a real deal. Not some, just walked around. He was on the robbery team. I'm gonna let him talk about himself, but this isn't like, hey, just another dude. This guy did some real old school NYPD police work. So let's bring Patrick in.
Patrick, my friend,
how you doing?
Hey, man. Very cool. Thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good. Let me get centered, guys. Who am I with there? Justin?
And Mike.
Yep. Hey,
man. Pat Brosnan. How are you?
Just a date. I'm just a date today.
Hang on. I'm good with 8-tracks. I'm good with 8-tracks. I'm not good with this shit. So if you got an 8-track, if you got an old Harley you want me to tune, I can do that for you. Hang on.
Great. Are you gonna try to do the height and everything? It's way ahead of us.
Yeah, right.
He's got a PTZ that thing, man. That's nice.
Usually Tyler's really short, so we don't even try to fix him.
Well, listen, I only have certain limitations, bro. Tyler, you're on your own there. So anyhow, guys, good morning.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're here, and your resume is impeccable. So run us through it.
So, guys, I'm a son of the Bronx. I was born in the South Bronx, went to school there, lived there for 34 years, right on the Champs-Élysées, the Grand Concourse, right next to Yankee Stadium. I was actually an English major. I went to college in the Bronx. I thought I would be, I don't know what I thought I would be maybe an English professor at some point. Instead, I went on the NYPD. I was on there for a little over 14 years. I was in a robbery squad for 10 years in the 46th precinct, which at the time and still has the distinction of being the most dangerous square mile in North America, based on reporting of the 7 major crimes, population density, and demographics. The reason I know that is I did my graduate paper on that when I was in graduate school, and I affirmed it as a material fact. So I had a lot of fun there, a lot of fun and games. It was the rock and roll 80s and 90s. I was there, if you can believe it, for the opening day of crack. Just like Major League Baseball, crack has an opening day. I actually have ascribed it for years with no basis, in fact, to the High Holy Day, St. Patrick's Day. What else? And that was yesterday. So I always felt the opening day of crack was around St. Patty's Day. But yeah, we were there in the tumble down rock and roll Bronx for quite a few years. I was a super active guy. I was involved in a lot of shootings, a lot of action, just the way it was. I got hurt in a shooting in '95 of January. And at the time, I was in the robbery squad, but I was also Mayor Giuliani's bodyguard. I was running his protective detail at the time. His first round, when he took the city from David Dinkins and straightened things out. And then all of a sudden I was retired. So boom, I'm out the door. I'm about 35 and had no clue this was all coming to an end like that. I would have stayed 100 years. Honestly, I loved it. I honestly, it's hard to believe. I would have done it for nothing. I would have did it for free. I felt I had a front row seat to the best show in town, the best show in the world. And I had a floor business, believe it or not, where we used to scrape floors, fix floors, hardwood floors, pickle them, bleach them, stuff like that, repair them. So I was making about the same in the floor business as I was as a detective. So to me, it was found money. It was really gravy. I was making the shekels in the floors and I was having the time of my life. Never wanted to take off, killed me to go on vacation. Always freaked out over other guys getting pistols off the street when I wasn't there. I always felt they were my guns. They had no purpose in taking them. They were slated for me and my partners. And it was just a bizarre thinking. But listen, I loved it to death. And all of a sudden I was out. And so I was lucky. I had great contacts with Rudy and at the time, Commissioner Bratton, Bill Bratton. And I was able to connect with a prize fighter out of middleweight champ, actually. He fought Hagler to a standstill named Mustafa Hamshaw. He put me in touch with the king of Saudi Arabia's brother, who was the prime minister. There was 11 boys, so he was the heir apparent. He was number 10. He was the king to be. And I wound up traveling extensively with them and living with them and protecting them with a team of 32 guys that were my team from Rudy's days. I brought the executive protection guys. We lived with them for quite some time, had that detail for a while, was able to scrape up some seed money so I could start a small investigations and a little security, but primarily investigations. I did that for about 8 years, did some travel around the world, had a small team. We handled some pretty cool stuff, a lot of covert surveillance, a lot of very comprehensive diligence, a lot of sneaky little stuff that we were able to do to gain actionable intelligence for our client base. And then gradually it morphed into a security business. And I started with about 50 guys, not even 20 guys. I sold the business 29 and a half years later. Typical overnight success, right? 30 years in the gutter with switchblades, fighting for my life. And then all of a sudden I'm out the door last December. And the largest security company in the history of the human race, Allied Universal, that's 23 billion with a B in top line revenue. They scooped us up, a little P comparatively. But we were national. I surrounded myself, guys, with the best and the brightest, and I paid up for them. I had the top guys from the CIA, top guys from the FBI. I had police commissioners, 4-star chiefs. I had them all. They were all great. Some were PhDs, some were lawyers, some were top-ranking law enforcement officials. And we grew the business to the time of sale to about 7,000 direct employees. Wow. And we were operational, boots on the ground in over 500 cities and 43 states. We're in every major state. I mean, we weren't in Utah, the Dakotas, Hawaii, Alaska, Montana. There's just no crime there. But we were in all the cities that were, that had problems relating to criminal activity and heightened gun violence. And now I'm in the counter-drone technology business. So I went right into another crime fighting. Well, I had no interest in doing anything else but staying in crime fighting. I've been doing it a long time, and I was really fortunate. I partnered with a company in San Francisco, and we're doing some really, really cool stuff with the government and with private folks. So there you have it. It's a long elevator pitch.
For counter drone, were you guys out there working during the Super Bowl that was just out there in last month?
Yeah, we were supporting their drones for police responders with our technology. We were at Major League, 7 World Series. We've been in the Field of Dreams. We a whole range of both industry, military, and very highly attended venues. Some music venues, top level sports venues. And it's pretty interesting because if you think of the acronym DIM, which is a great way to to compress our operating capabilities, think of detect, ID, and mitigate. So we have about 70 patents on that technology. So we have the ability to detect, to ID. Think of a license plate reader in the sky. We can identify who the registered owner is, and we can identify where the pilot is standing within 3 feet of where his feet are, anywhere. And then we can mitigate. We can mitigate with a Kevlar net. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. It's really amazing stuff. And listen, I partnered in with it. These guys did they did all the stuff. I mean, I barely know the DIM part, but the reality is they did amazing stuff. And now I'm in, and I'm kind of their global spokesperson as well as a partner. So it's
very cool.
Super amazing. Yeah, thank you. No, it's it's the future. Let's face it. Look what's happening. Look what's happening in the Ukrainian war, and look what's happening with Iran. Drones are here to stay, man. They're scary.
Yeah. Antihero has a correspondent that's in Ukraine and talks about the drone warfare and the stuff like that. And I can't imagine, being in the trenches or some of these videos that we've seen on social media, just hearing the sound. I mean, I know from working special events as a police officer myself and being a drone pilot, like you hear that noise and it's like, okay, there's a drone up somewhere. Let me see where I can locate it. All right. I was doing what your technology group does. I was doing it as a human being with experience and just trying to say, all right, what's the intentions of what they're doing? Are they just taking pictures or filming, or is there something attached to it? And then where are the locations that drone could be piloted from without any technology? I was trying to do it just as a human with ears and eyes, so
Which is
thankfully
amazing.
it wasn't as dangerous.
Well, Justin, but it's the human experience, the context and nuance that you bring from your life experiences and expertise as both a police officer and someone who's involved in it. That is extremely supportive, or rather vice versa. The technology is extremely supportive of that skill set. I mean,
for sure.
When you think that a bad guy can go on Instacart, get a $500 drone delivered to his crib in 24 hours, pay for it with a prepaid Visa card, not have to register it, because the registration, as we stand here today, it's going to change, but hasn't changed yet. Executive order issued on June 6th dictated that they must register. You don't have to register. You know what it is? It's an honor system. It's madness. So there's no titling, no registration, no licensing. It's like having cars and just, hey, don't worry, you don't need a license. Don't bother inspecting, insuring, titling, or registering. Just go. That's what it's like. It's the Wild West.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, with the Wild West for sure, with the drone stuff. I
want to go to the hood stuff. I want to go to the hood.
Go all the way back. Go back.
I want to
go way back.
You can't skip over with me. You can't skip over 14 years of robbery in the worst square mile in America. So tell us where that is, and tell us what your daily we all see New York on the TV every day. Back then, tell us what was going on in an average day for a robbery unit detective in that freaking hellhole.
My absolute pleasure. I often, when I do try to visualize, but to convey or to conceptualize what it was like then, today, when the city is infinitely safer, I always turn to the movies. I say, take a look at Death Wish with Charles Bronson. Take a look at Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro, Mean Streets with Harvey Keitel. Take a look at them. And that was the Bronx in the early 80s, late 80s, and up to the mid 90s, until Rudy came riding in and basically straightened stuff out. So just to give context, at that time there was 100,000, maybe a hair over, 100,000 robberies, reported robberies in the city of New York every year, probably from 87 up until about 94. 100,000. We were the mugging capital of the world. That's what they used to call New York City back then, mugging capital of the world.
Yeah.
And just to give you context for today, it's not 100,000, it's 3,000. 97% fewer robberies. So if someone goes down to the city today, and I get into these discussions with folks regularly, they say, hey man, I was in the city, I went by the garden, there's a guy shooting dope, there's a bunch of bums doing this, they arrest it. I said, there's a perception of the city being ridden with crime. There's a perception of the city being dirty, being populated by these zombie type homeless, but the facts do not support it. The facts support a far safer city. We went from 2,205 and 91 murders, just to switch into the murder business. And I wasn't in that business. I was in the robbery squad. I was in the gun squad, really, the stick-up squad. That's all I did. Today, there's about 300 murders. 2,200, 300, 100,000, 3,000. So what does that mean? When there was 100,000 robberies, we'd come into the squad. There was only 9 of us, 8 guys and a female. And just in the 4-6 alone, which was 1 square mile, and to tell you, to give you geography, it was Fordham Road in the Bronx, right? Everybody knows Fordham. It's a very well-known thoroughfare. It runs east and west in the central west Bronx. It went from Fordham, and we went south to the Cross Bronx Expressway. Then we went from Webster Avenue, another main north-south thoroughfare, and we went to the river. Okay, so we went over to the river from Webster and went down. So it was only 1 square mile. But in that 1 square mile, if you can believe it, was 200,000 documented folks. 200,000. And that's not counting for where, you know, there's an apartment and there's 6 on the register on lease, and there's another 6 came in from another country. So it's probably significantly higher. But the census supported 200,000 in 1 square mile. So the density was unbelievable. And the inclination a lot of times were for folks who were working there at the time, and even looking back at it, was to envision that it was really all bad guys, all bad people. But it really wasn't. There was a lot. There was an inordinate amount of really bad actors, but there was a lot of good folks there too. There was a lot of people who were there who were abandoned by their children, older parents who were trapped in their apartments behind 4 or 5 locks and a police bar, and they couldn't get out for groceries. I mean, it was really, 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 really dangerous. To give a very significant example, and I was in a conversation with some buddies of mine recently, and it came up about 2 weeks ago. We were talking about, there was, I think, 2 shootings or 2 murders in Brooklyn about 2 weeks ago. And I said to one of my buddies who was on a thread, who worked with me in the 4-6 at that time, I said, hey, John, we turned out on New Year's morning in 84. We were brand new rookies. Could be 85, 84, 85. And we were doing a day tour, an 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the 4-6. And there was 4 dead guys, 4 on 4 separate corners, completely unrelated from the overnight madness of New Year's Eve. Now that I've never had anything. I never had 3 on separate corners. I don't know that I've had 2 on separate, but we had 4 unrelated, and they went 183rd, Creston, Walton, and Jerome Avenue, all within like 2 square blocks. And that, to me, really drives home the point of how absolutely insane it was. But I got to say, I worked with amazing, amazing male and female officers in the 4-6. We had, in that one command, think about parking, impossible. I used to come in on a bike all the time, on a motorcycle. There's no parking for a car. We had 500 officers assigned to that one building, 500. One precinct, 1 square mile, 500. When I got there in 84 of January, there was maybe 225. When I left in 96 of January, there was 500. So it was unbelievable. There was no lockers, there was no parking, there was no cafeteria, there was nothing but madness and nothing but violence and nothing but radio runs, 30, 40, 50 on a 4 to 12. So it was a real deal. I mean, again, I go back to Death Wish and those movies.
Sounds like it. So you got all that going on. You talked about Giuliani. I know from growing up outside of New York City, I know when Giuliani came in, he flipped a switch and he said, we're done with this crime. What was that like for you guys as 2,200, all this chaos, and you got a guy comes in and says, we're done. What was the transition into that hardcore police work like, and how did that happen?
Beyond transformative.
They changed the whole city.
But I'll give you one quick story to give you context. In '86, before I went into narcotics, I went into narcotics in the 4-6 as an undercover. I went out on Thanksgiving morning, and my premise was, if I'm working on a federal holiday, everybody's working. That means the guys down in Central booking the zeros in arraignment, the zeros down in the courthouse, I'm putting them all to work. So the lieutenant, who I didn't get along with, said, listen, Brosnan, he said, no collars today. I said, really? He said, no collars today. So-and-so officer is making turkey, another officer is making eggnog. It was Thanksgiving. I could have cared less. I was eating in the car. I had no interest. I said, yeah, right, Lieutenant. Right, you're right, sure. So I go out, and I'm with my partner, and we smash a door down on 182nd and Morris. We lock up 18, just a shooting gallery, drugs. I think there might have been one little pistol, not a big caliber, but just a lot of volume, a lot of drugs, fair amount of drugs, individual packets, 18 guys and girls, and I shoot a pit bull. So you got to understand.
Just for good measure.
Yeah, well, he came charging at me. I hit him with a 4-cell mag light on the top of his head, but he was a double pit, and their heads are like this. And I hit him with the mag light, and he went like a cartoon into the corner, scraped his feet on the linoleum, and he was coming at me to take my throat out. And I put 6 in him, and now he's dead. So the lieutenant was so furious that he actually threw up in the sergeant's room. He started throwing up. And it wasn't just the collar.
I told you.
Brosnan, I thought, I said, now we get all the paperwork for the pit bulls. So this was the kind of madness that went on. But I had a rule. I'm working Christmas. Everyone's working. That's just the way it is. This is the way it is. And that was pretty crazy stuff. But to get back to your question. So when Rudy came, I'll give you an idea. And I remember very well because it came up recently in a brief interview I did with Rudy. I had Rudy on my show. I have a radio show on Saturday mornings on AM called Pat Brosnan Live from the Batcave. And I do it 30 feet underground in a Batcave, right? So I was reminding Rudy, we came back from Staten Island on a fundraiser one evening just before the election. The election was around early November for mayor in '93. So it was just before Halloween, maybe 2 weeks before. And we stopped, we said, let's stretch our legs. So me, him, and my partner, John Fleming, get out of the van. Another girl that was with us, communications director, stayed in the van, Christine Latigano. And we take a walk on 42nd Street and 8th Avenue, Times Square, which was a movie set for Taxi Driver. I mean, this was insane. I said, Rudy, let's take, because I didn't have to call him mayor then. He wasn't mayor. I was calling him Rudy. I said, Rudy, let's take a walk up the 7th and come down. I want you to see what the cops got to deal with here. This is the real deal. This is Saturday night. This is 9 o'clock. It's dark. It was warm, even though it was October. So we take a walk up, and he gets hit on. Nobody hit us because we looked like cops at a central casting. We had, the cheesy mustaches. We looked like right out of, they didn't go near us. But he was a former U.S. attorney. He had a different look. So they hit him for heroin, for methadone, for speed, for coke, weed, prostitution, hairless Portuguese boy, just 10 years old. Every amazing vice was slammed on him on the one walk up to 7th. And then he got double slammed coming down on the south side of the street back to 8th Avenue. We get to the door of the van. He looks at me. He looks at John. We go in the van. I can tell he's furious. He goes, that's all going to end. I said, when you're mayor, it's all up to you. And the first thing he did, to your question, when he became mayor, one of the first things was he took the handcuffs off the uniformed patrolman who had been metaphorically handcuffed from the post-NAP commission paranoia, right? They were worried that, hey, the cops on the beat couldn't make a drug arrest because they would be susceptible to getting paid off. This was the crazy thinking. Totally false, by the way. I've never seen it. Rudy took that all away. He said uniformed cops are to enforce the numbers laws, are to enforce the vice laws, the narcotics laws, and this is the ruling. And that changed the city. That's really what transformed Times Square, transformed Harlem, transformed East New York, transformed the Southwest Bronx, because the cops were allowed to do their job. Rudy was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I remember going there as a kid and before he took over when I was young, and then going back years later, I'm like, it's hard to see change in most communities. He changed the entire dynamic of that area, like completely overhauled it. It was amazing to see all the peep show buildings and all that garbage that was going on. I remember he got rid of all that. He just cleaned it up, and it was, that's where I look at, if you can do it in New York City, good leadership can do it just about anywhere. It can really happen if you put your mind to it.
You're 1,000% right, and you nailed it, because he transformed it from, again, a Death Wish set with Charles Bronson to Disney World. I mean, I recall down there, my children were very young. I remember going down maybe 95, 96, right after he took over. And not only was it lit up like an emergency room, because he put in tremendous lighting through Times Square, it was clean. And when you bumped into somebody, because you got to walk sometimes in the street a little bit, because it's just so crowded on the sidewalk, especially around Christmas, which was when this was. In the past, when they bump into you, they pick your pocket, right? Or they try to, maybe not me, because again, it looked like a cop, but somebody who didn't look like a cop, they would try to pick your pocket. That's just the way it was. Now, when they bumped into you under Rudy's transition of the city into Disney World, they apologized. It was unbelievable. It was really, really unbelievable. And the horror of it, the absolute criminal side of this, is that when that low-functioning retard, de Blasio, came in, he reversed everything. He reversed all the great work that Rudy, that Mike Bloomberg, that Bill Bratton, and that Ray Kelly did. All the great work got reversed. And then Eric Adams only made it worse. And I can't even begin to think of how bad Mamdami's going to make it, because he's just nothing but a terrorist. I mean, that guy is a bad, bad guy. And he's just warming up now, because don't forget, he's only in 90 days. Yeah. He's got a long time to further destroy us. So, I love the city, obviously. As a son of the Bronx, I love the city. I'm one of the few guys who loves it, warts and all. I go in all the time. I had offices in there. I work there. I still do. I go in all the time. But the reality is, it can really become almost like what's old is new again, to the extent that we can snap back into that time war. Because the bad guys don't go and colonize the moon. Let's be clear. They're always here, and their guns are still here, because guns work for 200 years, right? Rub it with oil, the gun works forever, right? Especially revolvers. So the pistols are here, the bad guys are here. Sometimes it's the children of the bad guys, I've learned. Bad guys don't age out. They just have another generation of bad guys. So this is scary. Mamdami is terrifying.
Yeah, very.
So 900 quoted 900 violent criminals. What separates some of the ones that you'll remember forever versus like the ones that blur, kind of just, run of the mill, like what's some of those violent ones that really stick out in your mind?
So there's always a couple, and they kind of fall into either the best cases, the scariest encounters, violent encounter, or the most violent guys, I caught a case, and again, I was always in a robbery squad. I wasn't in the murder business. I like to stick up guys. I like the kids with the guns. My thing was, I would search 100 cars and cabs a night and then stop counting. And that was every shift. And I only did 4 to 12s. And sooner or later, we'd surface a gun. So I personally, with my partners, probably recovered north of 500 guns, majority loaded, majority revolvers and semi-autos, a few machine guns, not many. They were rare, a few shotguns. And they were all violent bad guys, and some more than others. I got into it with a guy in a cab who had done about 10 years in Attica, as it turned out. And he was super diesel. I mean, it was a real tough one. And I was probably, at the time, I was a powerlifter, and I was probably 250. And he was lighter, but he was really a tough guy. And it kills me because you hate when you're fighting with a guy and you say, oh my God, this guy's at least as strong as me. He's actually, he was actually stronger. And we're fighting for his gun. He had a 45 and I had 338s. I always carried 3. I carried a Model 10, a Detective Special, and a spurless 38 Ruger. Always carried 3. And my reasoning for carrying 3 was 2 6-shots and 1 5-shot. So I had 17 rounds. And the weapon of choice on the street at the time was the Glock, which was 16 rounds. And I'm sitting in Supreme Court, and this is just a little rabbit hole, but I will ultimately get to the answer because that's what the judges used to say to me all the time. Brosnan, you're going somewhere with this, right? You're going to eventually answer it, right? So I'm in front of Judge Scheindlin, who is Judge Judy of television fame. It's her husband, Jerry Scheindlin. Just through some crazy luck, I was in front of him all the time. I was in front of him for trials. I was in front of him for suppression hearings. I was in front of him for weapon suppression hearings. They're called Huntley's and Wade's. And he took a bit of a shine to me because I was in front of him all the time. So I'm telling him this story and I'm saying, we're fighting for the gun and we're brawling and a round goes off. And next thing you know, I said, I get the gun from him, so I have the 4 guns. So it's a jury there. So he says, maybe I missed something. Detective, take me through it. Where's the 4 guns? Where did the 4 guns come from? I thought he had a gun, you had a gun. I said, Your Honor, and I hit him with a question. That's what a good sport he was. He let me question him. I said, Your Honor, what's the weapon of choice today? And this was probably early 90s. He said, a 9mm. How many rounds, Your Honor? And he carried a gun. He had a full carry, and he needed it. 15 and 1, which of course, I said, so 16 rounds. So I was carrying 2 6-shooters, and I had a 5-shooter, 17 rounds. He goes, makes sense to me. Carry on, detective. And that's a true story. And that was a really bad guy. But the worst guys I came across, and probably my best case to the extent that I feel it gave, it was a great case to the extent that it showed how when you go full boat, no matter how long it takes, you can get your guy. And these were really bad guys. Their name was Thomas Cross and Felipe Concepcion. And they robbed a bodega on 188th off of Fordham Road, and they shot the stock boy in the forearm. And based on that, I caught that case, and I started chasing them down. I learned that they did a few other bodega stick-ups, but then I was contacted by a detective up in the 50th precinct in Riverdale, a quieter section of the Bronx, named Rick Fogarty, who I knew from narcotics. He said, bro, I think your guys were involved with a triple murder in Riverdale a couple of months back. I said, whoa. And they were, but there was a survivor. So they went into the wrong apartment. You can't make it up. This is how retarded these guys are. They went into 2B instead of 2C. And inside 2B was an African-American woman in her late 30s who was a manager at a local Chase bank. Meanwhile, they were looking for Colombians because they were doing a drug rip. But this is how idiotic they are. And 2 young Spanish girls. They laid them on the floor and they executed them point blank in the back of the head. And then they searched the apartment for money. What they didn't learn, they killed 2, was one of the girls whose name was, I forget her name, but she was a young Spanish girl. I became very friendly with her because she was my surviving victim. They left their surviving witness. When they struck her in the head, and they called it the miracle of Montefiore when she went to the hospital, the doctors called it, the round, which was a small round, a 22, circumnavigated her head like under a ripple of skin and didn't pierce her brain. Never seen it, never heard of it before, but we had a surviving witness. Wow. So that surviving witness and her boyfriend, who was not inappropriately named Crazy, as it turned out, last name was Torres, they became my best buddies. I bolted onto them. And I had a van, a custom van, an older van I used to pull motorcycles with all the time with a trailer. And that was my surveillance van. Didn't look like any police van. And they were with me night and day and night, searching for these guys because she could identify them as a surviving witness. And Crazy knew them for the street because he was what they called at the time a second story man. He was a burglar, a B&B guy, not a home invasion guy. He would go in into nice homes, not in the Bronx, like in Westchester and Greenwich, and go in and burglarize the place, right? Take VCRs and stuff. So
Yeah.
we're searching. Can't find him. I learned that Thomas Cross was a bit of a Lothario, and he had a bunch of girlfriends, and identified 3 of them. And all 3 had a red heart on their thigh, on the outer flank of their thigh, with Tom on it, right? Playboy. So we learned one of the girls is pregnant, and we go to Union Hospital, myself and my partner Chris, and we put on Dr. Scrubs with stethoscopes, and we're just playing the role. We figure he's got to come and see the baby. I mean, who doesn't come and see the baby? He didn't come and see the baby.
Gotta see the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, he got to see the baby, but he didn't come. So the long story short, I go on America's Most Wanted on my birthday. At the time, it was actually my 30th birthday. I spent it in Washington with John Walsh, and I appealed to the public. I said, these guys are wanted in connection with a triple with one survivor. They killed a businessman in Oradell, New Jersey. I didn't have that case, but that was another murder. And they had 1 or 2 other shooting murders that were not mine. I had the robbery of the bodega where they shot the guy in the arm. And I went down and I got 1 million tips. And amongst the tips, I get a tip that it's from his aunt, his mother's sister, that he's in Tennessee, and they were watching, of all things, on February 25th, on the 30th birthday, when I did the first air, they were watching. He's watching America's Most Wanted with his aunt and other folks, cousins, I guess. His face comes on with Concepcion, Felipe, and out the door, he grabs his coat and he takes off. So I get this tip. I get on a hook with the special agent in charge in Tennessee. He's, of all things, he's bowling. I said, you got to put your bowling ball down, bro. We have a mass murderer wanted in connection with 5 confirmed murders in the Bronx, and he just split out of his aunt's house, and we have a surviving witness prepared to identify. So this guy puts his bowling ball down. They stop buses. They stop trains. They freeze the highway, the whole thing. He gets out under it, whatever. So we stay glued to it. So I drag in another girlfriend, and I'm going somewhere with this. And she was engaged to a pro ball player who was a good guy. He was about 7 feet. He played, I forget who he played for. He was a pro basketball player. I said, listen, bro, I don't want to blow up your engagement with her, but she's been communicating with Thomas, and she sent him $90 in a Valentine's Day card because it was February. I had the Valentine's Day card, and I warned her, that's harboring a fugitive. It's an E felony. You're getting in leg irons. You send him a penny, and you don't tell me where he is, you're going in. So he flips her. We get him on the phone. Long story short, we set up the hotel where he's at. We get him, the FBI gets him. We bring him back. We get Felipe on a roof in northern Connecticut. We bring him back. They go in for 55 years. Guess what they do? They put a $50,000 contract on my life. So I told the captain from Internal Affairs, listen, man, I'll kill myself for 50,000. I didn't have any money. I said, they don't have to kill me for the 50. I'll take the 50. And that's a true story. They went in for 66 years. And what's funny is I had a bunch of his booking pictures. I had them made up. And about a month ago, a buddy of mine mailed it to me. Actually, sorry, I saw him in Florida. He gave it to me. He said, you sent this to us, this picture of Thomas Cross with the numbers for our wedding. When you gave us our wedding card, I used to stick the little pictures of Thomas. That's how bad I was after the guy. 2 years. So I have it, actually. I should show it. I have it in the upstairs office. But that was a great case. You know why? They went in for 60. They were bad guys. I actually, we had to relocate a bit. My family had to relocate. I had radio cars outside my house where I lived at the time in New York. And I always said my neighbors wanted to make up neon signs that said, this is Pat, like this way on each side of me, because it was a lot. Well, there's a radio car in front, and I carried a shotgun. And a vision wide radio, because the feeling was that they put it out to the Latin Kings, and their MO was they'd bump you on a dark road, like the Sawmill Parkway, these different roads, the Bronx River going north. And when you stop to check out who bumped you, they open fire. So I had a shotgun and my 3 revolvers. But anyhow, all good, clean fun. And that's probably the best case, to be honest. That was a great case. Great end to it, you know?
Yeah.
Mike, and these were the days of no vests, really.
Yeah.
These
Well,
guys
he's
are
in
running around.
robbery unit. So some of the chat is being funny. I want to get to some funny stuff. We got a little saying around here called distractionary blows. When you kind of you give them a little here and there. What you're way before body cameras. What was the street level justice like back then with the locals, when you had to go, like, guy wants to tell you something around the corner, without getting yourself indicted? Well, how
Who on the statute? Believe me, my
Okay.
attorneys checked the statute before I went on your
Right.
show.
How did
So
that the
we had a
respect thing on the
guy.
street? How did that work?
Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. So there was a guy named, probably my second best case. It was profiled twice on Top Cops with Sonny Grasso. Was a gang called the Park Avenue Posse. The leader of the posse was a guy named Joey Aponte. Joey Aponte was a mad dog killer. He killed 7 people in the Bronx, in our area, in our precinct, the bordering precinct, in about 45 days. So the Bronx fielded a task force that detected the robbery guys, the homicide guys, and it was all about get Joey. It was wild. So we'll get too long on it because it's complicated. But what comes down to the justice part of it was he had a brother, a fat guy, right? He was a drug dealer. And me and him never got along. I see him in the street all the time. And I said, your brother's mine. You know that, right? I'm going to take his deed. He's going. Your brother's mine. I said, tell him. Then they go on and on about Brosnan this, Brosnan that. Finally, my partner winds up killing him in a movie theater, Joey, in a midday matinee for not Friday the 13th. The other one with Freddy Krueger, whatever that one is.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, because the Bronx, Daily News had it the other day, and the next day on Friday they said Nightmare in the Lower East Paradise, because that was the theater. And Joey he bought the farm, and he was such a bad guy. His mother conceded to the press that he needed to be shot, but couldn't they have shot him in the leg? But it was amazing. So I bumped into Fat Boy on the street off of Fordham Road. I don't know. He was just walking around. I pulled up and he sees me. He says, "Oh man, you and this and that and this." So I was in plain clothes, and we get into it. This is the street justice. So I'm with my partner. I said, "You know what? I'm going to whip your ass right here," because he's talking smack. He's saying, "I could take you if you didn't have the." I said, "I got news for you." I said, "I'm going to whip your ass right here." And I had a regular belt with pants, and I had my Model 10 here, and of course, as you know, a couple of pistols hidden. I keep them on, but I take off my gun belt and I hand it to my partner. I didn't destroy him deliberately because it was almost too easy. He was a fat guy. I was in shape. He didn't have a chance. But I gave him a good beatdown, and it was in front of a crowd. And I got to tell you, never a complaint. He never made a complaint. I mean, I didn't kick him when he's down. I just outboxed him and got him on the floor and crushed him. But the point was, it was acceptable then. He was out of hand. I played fair and square. There was no dirty pool. I was a little bit concerned that CCRB would get it, because you really can't fight when you're in uniform, and there should have been an arrest, and there wasn't. And I wound up getting him in for 4 years on a kilo in the back of a cab, I don't know, a month or two later. And he beat it. He got lucky. So he was gloating for a long time. But it was, that's how it's an unusual example, but, sometimes you just had to deal with it that way.
I'm sure that probably happened quite often. I mean, I'm sure
Certainly
there was
did.
a little bit more, and obviously the respect thing, and there was a better understanding, I think, on the streets back then when the boys in the robbery unit jumped out. It was we weren't going to run our mouth and throw snowballs at them and do stupid things like that. They were going to be dealt with.
No, 100%. And it's interesting. I have a photo. I probably have only 6 or 10 photos of my time in the department, which was north of 14 years, because there was none of this, right? This was the death of policing. But I have a good one, and I have 6 guys against the wall. I'm in uniform. I'm probably 21, and they're right on the edge of a really bad building, but the guys on the far left could have bolted at any time, and no one ran. People say, why would they? I was searching for pistols. If I found them with weed or something minor, I would just have them flush it into the sewer. I mean, I wasn't taking them and wasting my time. I was looking for the pistols. The reason they didn't run was they had a kind of a weird, I don't want to say respect, probably combination of fear and apprehension, but also a little bit of street smarts, that, listen, we live here. He's here every day, this hump. I see him going by searching everybody. He's going to get me the next day. And they wouldn't run. And the other thing was, if they did run and if they fought you for a pistol and you had to punch them and knock them out, or during the courts to get the pistol, never made a complaint. You know how many civilian complaints I had with a lot of arrests, over 900 arrests? I had three. 1, 2, 3. 3 civilian complaints, and not one of them was substantiated. And one was for cursing, one was for being discourteous, and one was for force. The point was, when I would search guys, if they didn't have a pistol, I'd shake their hand, I'd buy them a soda, I'd get them a coffee, I'd laugh, whoop it up, just say, hey man, it's cool, nothing personal. I said, someone said you had a pistol. You don't have a pistol, I'm good with it. And I also wouldn't make a big deal out of a joint. I would never get involved in that silliness, you know what I mean? And it really was not respect, but it just bizarre. No one could believe, especially the internal affairs guys, that I didn't have a mountain of complaints because of all the interactions. But I knew how to deal with people because it was not personal. It was never personal. They didn't rob my mother. You know what I mean? They didn't put a gun to my daughter's head. It was just, I said, it's nothing personal. Don't carry a pistol.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the street. That's that. And I didn't work in a massive area like that, but that's that street level cat and mouse respect game that's hard to explain to people that haven't ever done it. Like, there's just a give and take. They know your job. It's not today where everybody's screaming and throwing stuff and acting like morons because you can't do anything anymore. But you had that, what I see is mutual respect amongst the community that he's doing his job, we're doing ours. And if we do anything but what he says, eventually it's going to be really bad for us at some point.
Absolutely. And if you, conversely, if you don't, I mean, used to be funny. I would lock guys up on overtime, right? I was an overtime animal because, no one's overpaid in the NYPD anyhow. And I always had a rule: when I locked the guy up, I would always try to get in a workout. We had a great gym downstairs, and I try to get in on overtime because you never got a better pump than if you were making the overtime rate. And I would take the prisoner with me because no one's watching your prisoner. Let's be clear. That's just on TV. Nobody says, hey man, I'm cool. You go catch a 2-hour workout and I'm going to keep an eye on your prisoner. I'm going to feed him and take him to the head. No one does that. No, his partner might. And I would take him down. I would cuff him to the crossover cable machine, to the base of it. I'd get him a soda. I'd get him a sandwich. I'd give him the daily news. And I would do a full 2-hour workout with cardio. I swear to God. And they would pat this. Hey, Pat this. Hey, Jose, this. Because it was never personal. Never. And I never smacked them unless they started. Then I used continual force. I just didn't because it wasn't personal. I didn't know them. I had nothing against. You want to carry a gun? Well, you can't carry a gun. I'm going to take it, and you might do a bullet, maybe 6 months on Rikers. You're not going to go away for 10 years for it. So it always worked for me. I didn't hate them. I honestly didn't. I didn't even know them. And I found the workouts was great. I'd get a full workout in. I'd do it at 50 or 70 an hour in overtime. They were happy. They were eating, reading the paper. Maybe I give them like a 2-pound dumbbell, because I couldn't have them throw something at me. And it would just made it less likely they were going to try to run on me because, let me tell you, speed was not my strength. When I got them, I could hold them. But if they ran, I was going to lose a prisoner. And I knew that. And that's why I carried leg irons. I always carried leg irons. Always. And I actually found them. They're around here somewhere. I did find them. God help me why I was looking for them the other day. But I do have them. And, that was just my operations. And even the 4-6, a lot of tough guys, a lot of tough females. Be honest, I never ever saw indiscriminate brutality. I just didn't. It was just, hey, listen, these active guys were very aggressive, were very proactive. You guys are doing the wrong thing. You're going to go down to central booking. You're going to go to night court. You're going to be arraigned. You're going to stand in front of a judge. And guess what? You're getting out. I mean, I wouldn't tell them that. But the city was, again, back to a movie, Bonfire of the Vanities. The judges couldn't wait to get them off the docket and get right out. No one stayed in. I saw a guy 500 pounds of weed. 500 pounds of weed. It wasn't my collar, but I remember coming in. It was hefty bags, but they were in big plastic garbage containers. I said, wow, 500 pounds of weed. These guys got to do a dime on that, right? 90 days and a fine.
There you go.
They couldn't get rid of it quick enough. The Bronx judges just cycle them through the system, put them in the Bronx house of detention, give them a fine and move on. Who cares about weed? I said, all right. I mean, I didn't care. I was in the robbery squad. It wasn't my business.
Pat, how much time do you have for us today? I know you got something after this.
I'm cool. Yeah, listen, this is fun. I can hang another 15, 20 minutes. Listen, I'm going to the dentist, so I'm trying to delay it. So you guys are doing me a favor.
We're gonna do we got like a minute and a half video in the middle. We got to run for our sponsor, and we'll be right back after that.
Of course, yeah. Thank you, guys. I'm here, man.
Yep. Hit it, Justin.
Oh, it's not on my. It's not on this board.
No way.
Yeah, Tyler must run it.
I got it.
Okay.
Over a century ago in 1910, the Flexner Report, funded by John D. Rockefeller and the Carnegie Foundation, re-engineered medical education from a holistic, whole-body approach, which appropriately treated the body as an interconnected system, to a compartmentalized approach under the guise of specialized medicine. They shut down or consolidated medical schools, marginalized naturopathic, homeopathic, and chiropractic medicine, replacing them with symptom management and synthetic drugs. Allopathy is a marketing strategy rooted in fear and manipulated science. This philosophy carried into veterinary medicine, resulting in over-vaccination, unnecessary surgeries, and manufactured food, just like they did for people. They call it care, but it's predatory and based in profitability. The truth? Toxicity, compromised immunity, and chronic inflammation. They're not fate. They're engineered. And so is your power to undo them. We built 3 targeted formulas to return the body to homeostasis, for pets and people, to detox, defend, and restore. We are the correction to decades of corruption. We are vengeance.
And we're back. Hit it, Justin.
We're back. What do you
got to pay the bill?
Yeah. Let's go.
So just a quick one, guys. I went across the room just to tell you, these are the leg irons. So it is. Let's not dig too deep into why I had such quick access to them and how I knew exactly where they were 20 years later. But these are my babies. Largely inactive now, to be frank. But
there you go, Mike.
Excellent.
There's goon tape, everybody. Goon tape for when work gets wet. Put them on your pistolas. You put them on your workout equipment. Moisture activated goon tape. Go to goontape.com and save 15% by using the code antihero15.
Awesome.
All right. What's your next one?
I got Crave because I got Crave here. Go to trycrave.com. Use code Antihero15 for 15% off. Creatine makes you smarter, gets adds water to the muscles. They are a great company. There's actually creatine in it. They're local to us. They support first responders and military and blue collar workers. So go to trycrave.com. Use code Antihero15 for 15% off.
And then Flatline Fiber Co. I went down and grabbed, we're doing show and tell. I grabbed my Flatline Fiber Co. This is their, it's called the Pimp. It's the medical bag that goes on the back of my, my war belt there. So use Antihero 15 Flatline Fiber Co. They make the slings, all the stuff you need for that battle belt, for going out to the range. Antihero 15 via Flatline Fiber Co. Save 15%. All right, we got it all out. We got all that out of the way.
You want to get to some of you were taking notes on those questions, right, Justin? You want to hit him with some of the questions the chat had before he's got to go?
Yeah, the chat. Well, let me show this one video. The chat brought up the bomber that was out in front of is that Mondami's house or where they were. I'm gonna bring this up, add it to the stage, show this. There's a video. I muted it. That way we could kind of talk over it. I liked how the guys did some work. Like he shoved that leg out there, hyperextended. I mean, you got a chief right there, right? You got a 2-star, I think, going jumping the fence. So you got the whole crew, and I'm proud of the boys and girls for getting out there and really, converging on this guy and not just like letting him get out of there. So just kind of let it roll. But yeah, that's kind of one of those things. So who's the crew that's out there in front of the mansion or the brownstone where they're at?
So various there's officers from the command assigned to Gracie Mansion. There's also Hercules officers. They always on standby. They're the counterterrorism guys out of the Joint Terrorist Task Force, which is why there was a 2-star there. And I don't know him. I love seeing the tape of him vaulting the barricade and the sergeant running. But to be very frank, and I salute them all, they did an amazing job, right? The officer who, to your point, shoves off with his right foot and takes him down with a classic tackle, I don't know his name. And we need to know his name, because this is another example of the unheralded heroes. Granted, a 2-star, fantastic. I guarantee you there's no other 2-star that would have done that, that I know of, or likely. But let me tell you, who was the guy who actually took him down? Because these guys had some wicked, wicked, wicked mother of Satan witches concoction wrapped with probably 100 bolts. And, I gave the analogy, I was on Fox, of a Benelli Marine Corps shotgun, which I think is the most devastating weapon around, right? It lets 8 33 caliber rounds go. I said, if those 2 improvised explosive devices had detonated that day, it would have been like 4 or 6 guys in a circle, 360, with Benellis opening fire and unleashing hell. That's how bad it would have been. It would have cut people in half, like the Boston Marathon. Terrifying.
To your point, an account that I've followed for a long time, they make some good swag. Off-duty outfitters out of NYPD. I think they're active guys on the job, but they are behind this account. They said that Officer Grant Pulgarin ran towards a terrorist who had already thrown 2 explosive devices, knowing full well the suspect could have been wearing secondary explosive. There's no guarantee of safety, no time to calculate risk, and no certainty. He still didn't hesitate. He tackled him head on, fully aware that it could cost his life. And I'm briefly giving the statement. So I mean, that's from an IG account or an Instagram account that's by some officers. But yeah, like to your point, it's not in the news. They didn't do a show and tell, giving them an award for heroism and stuff. But these guys aren't out there to get that award for heroism. They're out there to get the job done, to protect the people that are out there, not just the mayor, but the people that are out there. Well,
1,000%. No, 1,000%, Justin. The fact is, I just learned that now from you, from the IG account, because it was not articulated or socialized in any of the mainstream news media feeds. And I know only because I was on Fox and Newsmax extensively. Obviously, it was a really, really big, terrifying incident. First, I heard his name.
Yeah,
well done. First, I heard it. Thank you. Please.
I'll send you the post that they made, Off-Duty Outfitters, some friends of mine up there in New York.
Beautiful.
So giving that officer some props, and then everybody else. I mean, they all didn't look like there was a question in their mind about what they were doing. Somebody just said go, and they went.
Exactly.
So good on them. One of the other questions comes from Dude Duder. And it said, what was your experience with 9/11, during and then post, going forward?
Great question. I had retired in 96, inexplicably on Valentine's Day. So I was already out, but I had my business at the time, and I went down about 2 hours after the second tower went down. I went down on a pearl white Fat Boy Harley, brand new bike I had. And when I got there, I was only able to get into the city because I had police ID. So I was able to get through all the checkpoints into what they called at the time the frozen area, because it was completely frozen around ground zero. And when I got there, my bike was black, completely black. It was black for a long time. And I met with a client, and we started operations at 4 p.m., 1600 hours that day, protecting Gateway Plaza, which is a 2,000 unit multi-building a residential set, a series of buildings about 100 feet southwest of the old South Tower, maybe 200 feet. In fact, Commissioner Ray Kelly lived in that building, and we were there for 4 months around the clock with 32 guys and girls, 64 actually. We had 2 shifts, 12-hour shifts, and it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. It was roasting hot. The fires raged for weeks. We were constantly filthy. It was unbelievable. But the great thing I take away from it is I saw so much unity between humans. I saw no racial discrimination, no sexual discrimination, no sex discrimination. Everybody was unified. Everybody was on a common mission on the Bucket Brigade, which I was on as well, to move forward on the mission. And at first it was search and rescue, and then it was recovery off to the Staten Island, right, with the remains. It was horrible from the first minute when I got there, which was probably at 1 PM. And it was one of those horrible events that kept getting worse as the facts came in, as bodies were recovered. And it was really like what I've always imagined from, just books and medieval readings and stuff, to be almost like what hell would be like, Dante's hell, because it raged at night. The fires rage and it was like unending and roasting hot. Yeah, it was horrible. Horrible. Yeah. And we navigated around there on golf kind of quads. I ditched my bike. I mean, that was my way to get home. And we stayed down there. We stayed in Gateway. We opened a satellite office there that evening. We had airbags, air mattresses, and we had 2 apartments linked. And that's where we slept and ate meals and stuff, and kind of deployed out of there as a staging area. And then we got around on quads, to throughout the frozen area. It was really the word that leaps to mind, guys, is it was surreal. It was surreal, and it kept getting more surreal. It was, wow, something else.
Sheesh. Yeah, no, I mean, it's gotta be super crazy with that. One of the other questions coming in, Ja just asked, I will transition a little bit out of it but back to the drone related company. You got World Cup coming up this summer, the whole United States, and then you've got Canada and Mexico as well, joining in. So you got a lot of security and fears, obviously, for drone type issues coming up. You guys got a lot of prep going in?
Yeah, we do. We've submitted proposals for that work in both locations to our partners, and the probability is extremely high that we will be positioned there with our technology and our defense technology, both the counter drone identification, detection, and mitigation. And I only briefly touched on the mitigation. I'll give you a snapshot on it. We have the capability to deploy from our interceptor drones, which are a much bigger drone, a Kevlar net that captures the drone. It captures the drone, and then it releases a little parachute so the drone goes down slow and doesn't hit some lady walking her poodle on Lexington Avenue. So it's all about safety and security of getting the drone down. To shoot them down, people say, "Oh, shoot them down, just deactivate them with different ways." Yeah, but what happens when the drone falls out of the sky and it hits an innocent person? So, but the long answer is that yes, we'll be there and at the 250th and other locations as well.
I got a question. Do you, having been at 9/11, and then to see what is now elected and going on with the government of the city, how does that make you feel?
Terrific.
I see a lot of memes that say if you would have shown everybody on 9/12/01 that a Muslim socialist was running New York City, the people at 9/11 would have lost their mind. Well, you were there. So how do you feel right now to see what we've done and what has been elected and the way the city is going after what we experienced?
Disgusted. It's reprehensible. It's symptomatic and symbolic, in my view, of a disenfranchised youth in the city who put Mamdani in his role. But the fact that his father's best friend, his de facto uncle, was an unindicted co-conspirator on the attacks on the towers, which many people have forgotten, on February 26th, 1993, where 6 Americans were murdered and hundreds went to the hospital, critical. An unindicted co-conspirator. And the comments that his wife and his mother have made, Mamdani's, are beyond reprehensible. They sicken me to the core. had that ever been mentioned on the 12th, first of all, no one would even, in their worst raging, screaming at the middle of the night nightmare, have envisioned this. But it's here, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying.
What I wanted to go to that too. I remember right after 93 happened, for those who don't know, there was a bombing in the World Trade Center. What was you were working then, correct?
I was,
90
yeah. It was actually my birthday.
Tell us about that and the response to that. And
Your birthday.
my damn birthday again, between Thomas Cross and the bombing. Yeah, I was in my lawyer's office. We had a small investigations business while I was there called Sherlock, and we were just kind of setting up the office, and I was with three buddies of mine from the robbery squad, and we just absolutely couldn't believe it. But there was, even though Ray Kelly kept ringing the fire alarms about it, that they're not done with us, this is part of a broader strategic and tactical plan, there was not a plan. It was nothing like 9/11. There was no enormous response other than the emergency response. There was no protracted response. There was, to my knowledge, and I was active duty, we were never assigned. And had I been still active on 9/11, I'm certain myself and all my detective partners and police officer partners and bosses would have been assigned down there in rotating shifts of 12 hours. So it was, that one was vastly underrated in terms of the broader picture, in my opinion, and in Commissioner Kelly's opinion, who I've had on my radio show 2 separate times, and we discussed that. But he's a smart cookie. He's a smart cookie. That's why
they drove a U-Hauls right into the parking garage of the World Trade Center and tried to essentially trying to knock the building down. In 93, they detonated them in the basement or
in the garage. Yeah.
Yep, the underground garage under the South Tower. Yeah, and again, I wasn't assigned to, and I didn't go down there. The 9/11 was much closer because I was down there in the capacity as a civilian assisting with the cleanup, search, and rescue to the extent that we could, and also I was there because we were protecting clients' portfolio assets, property, and people tangential to the buildings. I mean, a couple hundred feet away. We had a few clients there, so I was there a lot. I was there for a long time. I was very sick, very lucky that I didn't get seriously sick. Many people have died since. More have died subsequent than have died at the tower when the towers went down.
Yeah, due to related cancers and other breathing issues and stuff. Yeah, big time.
And then you see, like, and to continue off the first point, you see like Newark raising a Muslim flag and all that stuff, and it continues. Like, how does that make you feel? Like, for those, I'm sure you still have people somewhat connected, probably older, most retired, maybe some kids, but for that area of the country to see that happening and to have that going on, what is your thought to those men and women that have to still, police up there and deal with that?
It's really the emotion that gets me is it's sickening. It's disgusting, but it's also sad. It's sad that our memories are so short. We're coming up on the quarter century, right? In 6 short months, 5.5 months, we will be memorializing symbolically the 25th year anniversary of the murders down at the towers and the melting of the towers. And to think that our memories are so short that we're allowing for this madness to continue to perpetuate and to continue to metastasize is really a very sad commentary on youth, in my view, mostly, who just really don't care what happened then. That's something that happened a long time ago. And it can never be forgotten. And I know that's a mantra. Never forget, never forget, never forget, right? It's like see something, say something. It becomes a little bit trite, but it's not. You can never forget. I mean, I still go down to Ground Zero. I go down to the memorial whenever I'm in town or when I can get down that way. And you got to keep it top of mind.
And I just thought about that. We're going to have the 25th anniversary with Mandami down there doing some talking about the incident. Like, Trump will be there, obviously, but to think that we've come this far, that this guy who's making cops pray and do the religion thing, he's going to be the guy in charge of the city to talk about a terrorist attack, the worst terrorist attack in the history of our nation. That is, like, you just said that, and that pops in my head, and I think what a shit show that is.
2 days before his election, I was asked on Fox, what do you think about this guy? Maybe 3 days before. I said, he's a rattlesnake. He's extremely dangerous. He's young. He's charismatic. He has a following. He is a master manipulator. He is so bad. He is so bad, I said, that he makes de Blasio look like Winston Churchill. And he makes David Dinkins look like Mother Teresa. Because you got to give context of the other horrific leaders. Dinkins was horrific. The city burned under his watch. And de Blasio was nothing short of an anarchist with his wife. I mean, he was looking to burn the city down. But he's so bad comparatively, Pam Tammy, I think of Winston Churchill. And I think, and Rudy Giuliani shares this with me, and he has shared it on my show twice. He's been on a couple of times. I said, how bad? Mayor, how bad is this guy, this rattlesnake? And he said, Pat, he's fatal. He will be fatal to the greatest city in the world. And I hope he's wrong. And I said that. I hope you're wrong on that, Mayor, but I fear you're not.
And somebody said, take the race and all that out of it. He ran on this socialist platform, free transportation, free this, the same thing they always run on. In his first 90 days, he's already increased the price of transportation. He's going into the teachers and teachers fund for money. He's telling everybody. So everything he ran on, he's already fallen apart, and it's been months.
So he's a typical politician in that regard, right? He just feeds you a line of garbage, and then once he gets the keys to the city, he just does what he wants. He doesn't fulfill any of his promises, unlike our great president, who does the opposite, completes everything that he promised. But there is something critical to understand, and folks who've been around the mayor, as I was with Rudy, is there's a city council, and you have to have a majority, and it's the majority is 26, right, on 52. You need 27. And he doesn't have that many fawning sycophants who are marching to his twisted drumbeat based on public records and publicly available data that I've been able to uncover. So he doesn't have them yet on his team sufficient to really implement this wicked, evil, radical agenda. The stuff he was talking about was so over the top. But that's not to say, guys, we're only 90 days in. Yeah. He's got a lot of time to, to incentivize, intoxicate, indoctrinate folks on the city council to his way of thinking. And that's the fear, that he will be able to, because he is a very, very convincing and manipulative speaker.
Yeah. I mean, for a young crowd, this new generation that doesn't understand that people have to pay for things and that all these programs cost money. If you listen to him talk, you're like, well, hell, I want all that for free. I'm going to vote for this guy. Like, it sounds good when you're hearing it, but then when you actually have to fund it and hardworking Americans have to pay taxes to fund it, it doesn't usually work out as smooth as it sounds.
Absolutely not. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that that's just pie in the sky. But he has been able, if you think about it, he's been able to pull off a tremendous feat by getting the keys to the kingdom. I mean, he's the mayor of New York City. That's a big deal. That's a big, big deal.
Yep.
Well, one of the, I guess one last or whatever, in behind you, you've got a military order of the Purple Heart. One of the guys was asking where that came over your shoulder.
I was injured in the line of duty, and I received that from the military order of the Purple Heart at a ceremony up in the Bronx. It was pretty, not super uncommon. It was pretty relatively common for guys who got hurt, as civilians, well, as paramilitary sworn active duty NYPD members. They did generate them once a year. So thank you. Yeah, it was a very meaningful recognition.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, not cool that you got injured in the line of duty, but a nice recognition for the sacrifice.
Yeah, no, and a terrific bunch, and I was for a while I was the president of co-founder and president of New York State Shields. Started in '89 in November. Just give you a quick thumbnail, which is why I had relationships with other organizations. With my radio co-partner John Fleming, we started with 80 members in VFW in Yonkers, and when I stepped down in '95, we had 7,000 members, and it's still probably the largest fraternal group And I was able to make tremendous relationships, contacts, colleagues and friends with that organization. And that organization would be all about recognizing the behavior that you pointed out with that officer whose name you mentioned. We would bring him up and give him a check and a beautiful award and a beautiful dinner. And we did it monthly, the first Tuesday, 10 months a year, not in the summer, up in the Northwest Bronx, called the New York State Shields, which is, by the way, how we had Rudy as our first man of the year in 93. And that's kind of started our relationship as well in some way, 92. So those organizations are critical to supporting the esprit de corps of the officers in the field. We very rarely honored bosses unless they were exceptional, like that 2-star. We honored the guys who were sleeping in central booking on the tile, processing guys at arraignment, sleeping in the courthouse, waiting to process the prisoners out to Rikers in the Bronx house. Those were the guys we were interested in, because I was one of them.
We call those the 99 percenters here in our like anti-hero family. Those are the guys that do 99% of the work. They're just the regular guys.
Yep.
They don't have nothing special about them other than they're heroes, but they don't get the recognition everybody else does because they just call it the regular police work, the regular guys.
Just doing the job. Just doing
that's
the job.
That's our people, are the guys that are the 99 percenters.
You absolutely nailed it. And it's funny because my partner, John Fleming, used to say, I think 10% of the job does the work. You know, the work to me was not taking cats out of trees and crossing streets with old ladies. It was locking up bad guys, putting them away up to Attica. And he always argued, and I have conceded that he was right, fewer than 5%. So to your 99% rule, it was fewer than 5% doing 99% of work. And those were the only guys that we were interested in recognizing and acknowledging. No interest at all in, hey, the guy's a great boss, or this guy did something else. I wanted those guys, the guys that you referenced. And that was our operating mantra at the Shields, which was a pretty solid organization, I got to say. It really did some good stuff. So I'm with you. We're directly aligned in that. And when we first spoke, you mentioned that analogy with as it relates to the military, and it stuck to me. And then I realized, that's absolutely spot on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I always get the questions about law enforcement, and everybody wants, I want to do this, I want to do that. I always tell them, and I'm sure you're going to agree, but you're in a really cool unit. But at the core, we have to have hard charging young cops coming through the ranks that just want to do patrol. Learn that job. That is the most important function. You'll be a detective one day. You'll be sergeant one day. But every time you go do detective, you're going to probably come back to patrol. And that's where the real grind happens. That's where the real, the stories are made. That's where the most important job is, that core law enforcement. Everybody goes, oh, you're just a patrol guy. No, you are a patrol guy. You are the most important function in this entire entity.
You nailed it. You couldn't have put it better. It's interesting because I've been saying almost the exact same thing. It's the unheralded patrolman. He's walking the midnight shift, frozen solid, sweeping rain, freezing cold, his feet are cold, and he turns a corner and there's a stick up of a cab. And now he's in the middle of it. He's thrown into it, right? They say years of boredom or hours of boredom, I forget the analogy, and then moments of sheer terror. And those are the real heroes. And those are the folks that we were extremely interested in identifying and recognizing their achievements at the New York State Shields. And that to me was the absolute most important thing, is because no one cared. They're out there grinding it away, but they're the front line. And you're right. You got to go through patrol. Patrol's where it's happening, especially in the heavy commands. But not to discount the light commands either, because crime can surface anywhere. And I say that all the time whenever I have an opportunity to bloviate, to mention to younger officers. I say, listen, put your head on a swivel, trust no one, triple check, don't double check, and grow eyes not just in the back of your head, grow eyes in the side of your head, bro. Watch everyone, trust no one, sit facing the door, search I'm still that way. I mean, I've not gone into a restaurant in 40 years where I don't sit facing the door. I don't leave the house in this country, out of overseas I can't. In any of these 50 states, anytime you see me, including the beach, I'm carrying an air weight 357, 11-ounce 6-shot. Doesn't matter. I'm the only guy left in America wearing a fanny pack. But let me tell you, in that fanny pack is a little 11 ounces of special treat for anybody who wants to misbehave. Little special treat, you know.
Loads of fun. Yeah.
But it's true. I mean, listen, you know, you get guys, you know, and it's important that they get it. You know, you're in a very quiet command. Not so much New York, because New York's nuts, but could be any. Look at the Catalina foothills. No one wants to say it, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole with this with you guys, because I respect your time and I'm super appreciative of being allowed to join. But I would like to discuss that, because there is a big secret that no one wants to articulate. I did broach it recently on Newsmax because I'm tired of no one facing it head on. I like to say what no one else will say. The sad reality is, when you live personally, say at Guthrie, the mom lived. She lived in an affluent area, multi-million-dollar homes, very nice, beautiful spot in the Catalina foothills. Those officers, and forget the low-functioning knucklehead masquerading as the sheriff. That guy is useless. But they're appointees. We'll just cast them aside. But the other detectives, the other officers, are probably fantastic people, super people dedicated to protect and serve, trying everything they can, but they have no experience. The reason they have no experience, and this is the supreme irony is because there's no action. How do you know how to investigate a homicide unless there's homicides? So if there's no homicides, you only know what you see on TV. You only know what you can Google, right? If there's no armed robberies, or we don't know what that crime is yet. Is it a burglary, a robbery, a armed robbery, a home invasion, an abduction? No one knows. I don't know anyhow what the hell happened. But if you've never done it, if you've never investigated it, how would you know how to solve it?
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the supreme irony of law enforcement in affluent, super low crime areas. And I've seen it time and time and time again.
Yeah. Would you agree? This is my analogy, is there are things that just can't be taught in a book, and there are feelings. And I worked a couple homicides. I wasn't nothing near what you did, but I worked a few homicides. I worked some drug cases, pretty big ones. You just got you get a feeling, you get this feeling, and you kind of, the book doesn't matter. It's your feeling goes, I've done this before. I've felt this before. I think I should do this. And I get into car chases. Use the same analogy. If an agency never chases a car ever, what happens when the little kid gets kidnapped and now they have to chase a car? They have nothing to reference. So do you get that same thing? Like there's just an unteachable type feeling from working that type of crime that starts to take over the investigation?
1,000%. And I think that's called collective wisdom, and it could be married to its first cousin, collective nuance. But what it really is you've done it before. You've seen it before. You smelled it before. Like a wolf, you sensed it before. You've done it before. And as a result of that, you are much more susceptible to, in my view, to identify clues that would maybe not surface if you didn't do it before. And I saw that, I learned, relatively quickly, I suppose, how to study people's gait. This was something I took very serious. And I studied it, by the way. I interviewed guys who were 15 years older than me. One guy in particular, Bobby Gallagher, who was known as Bobby Guns. He was the legend. And I made it my business to find out where he was, introduce myself. And I was a kid. He might have been 20 years old. I was probably 24. I said, teach me. When a guy's walking, what am I looking for? Well, you're looking for a shift in the gait. If he's carrying a shoulder rig, his arm's going to move this way. If he's running, he's going to... All of these clues helped build my portfolio, right? My business portfolio on identifying guys, and also aided me tremendously in being able to articulate in a court so the gun didn't get suppressed, so the guy didn't get acquitted, and didn't get a no true bill on the grand jury. And actually at the end, maybe 10 or 12 years in, I actually became recognized as a subject matter expert, for what it's worth, on carrying, I know it's a weird thing, right? It's like identical beekeeper, right? What the hell does it mean? Well, it meant a lot because it was about being able to convince the court and training syllabuses in the academy on methodologies to identify when someone's wearing a gun. We don't know if it's illegal. Could be a guy who has a full carry. Could be a cop. But you want to be able to notice that. And I still notice it. I still spot guns, every so often. And it drives me crazy. I can't toss them. But, That ship is fast.
Nick introduces, and I'll be honest, when you get into the podcasting world, I'm sure you get interviews, you hear, oh, we got an old guy was a New York cop. He was, and you're like, and then as soon as I spoke to you, I remember looking at Tyler, like, and everybody in the chat said, like, this is the guy. Like, this dude did all the work. He knows what he's talking about. He's got it. And that is something I think when you get around other guys and you're like, yeah, this guy, it's not fluff. It's not, you got the it thing. And I think that was,
Thank you.
14 years robbery. You got robbery experience in New York PD, not just I walked around the B. I didn't do it. And I was immediately drawn into like what you're talking about. I think the chat is as well. Like they're really impressed. We appreciate you so much. Like this is
thank you.
Listen, you've got
my pleasure. Yeah, thank you. You know, it was a good run. I had a great run. I learned a lot. I worked with amazing men and women who were very proactive. I had great district attorneys who taught me the law and to make sure that it stuck. Because it wasn't worth it to me to just get a pistol off a guy and melt it down, and then he walks and he goes gets another gun for 150, and then some lady on the corner. And I used to, and I'll leave you on this, guys. You'll like this one. Once I learned that I didn't know it, but when I became aware that I could go into a grand jury when they let a guy walk, I didn't notice till about mid-career. I don't know how the hell I learned it. I used to pick the DA's brains, like I picked the robbery guy, Bobby Gallagher. I said, can I go in for last licks? If somebody lets someone walk on a pistol that I grab, and they let him walk because they say, hey, man, we believe it. Even though he never reported it, he was probably a victim of a bunch of robberies, like he said, which of course was nonsense because he would have reported it. And I would go in and scold him. And it gave me pleasure. It meant nothing to anybody but Pat. I go, and you guys feel good, right? I got last licks. I'd come in, I'd say 16 grand jurors in the Bronx and say, they didn't know who I was because well, they did because I had to testify. So they did know me. I'd come in at the end. After they voted, no true bill. I say, you guys feel good about this? All right? You feel good, man? You feel good about it? You live in the Bronx. I live in the Bronx too, man. I live in the Bronx. I'm not going to tell you where, but I tell you, I live in the Bronx too. Been here for 34 years. You feel good? You're a young lady. You probably have a few babies. Let me tell you, you release that guy, he's going to get another pistol. He was never the victim of a robbery that he didn't report, and certainly not 10 of them. He hasn't been pistol whipped like he said, and that's why he got the gun for protection. He's a stick-up guy. He's a shooter. And shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. Swear to God. The DAs used to think I was just nuts. I mean, because nobody cared but me. But I got a rise out of it, man. You know, to me, it was worth it. So I got to scold the grand jury. Whatever that's worth.
We'll get you out of here. We got one last question, and we're going to get you out of here. Would you ever run for New York City mayor?
No, I don't think I would. I hate to say it because I'm really very optimistic guy. I think it would be extremely difficult for a guy like myself with my background, my ethnicity, my history in the street, my career in the NYPD, as well as a private career. I think it would be an impossible lift, and I think they'd be lined up. I would be almost the Antichrist to come in. And it's a shame because I wouldn't mind, I always wanted to help, and it's beyond help. But listen, I think another Rudy could surface. I do ask Rudy this. Is there another assistant U.S. attorney or a U.S. attorney bureau chief or some DOJ person who could come in and clean this place up? Because it's a shame to see the destruction and chaos and devolution, right? The degrading of such a great city. It's the greatest city in history. I mean, you don't have to love it, but you still got to recognize it. You can get pizza at 3 a.m, which is the best pizza in the world. You get cool stuff. Yeah, right. I know. Everything's open all the time. There's no crime. That's nonsense. There's a couple of junkies shooting dope outside the garden. There's some homeless knuckleheads. They're not going to give you a hard time. What we used to do, and I'll leave you in the business in Brosnan security, we had vans, multiple vans, maybe 10 or 15 vans with retired lieutenants and sergeants, always that rank. And we would just remove the homeless from the ATM lobbies of the TD banks and City banks and Chase too, but mostly TD and City. And we'd come in, some bum would be set up, sprawled out, and he'd be plugged into the power with his laptop. You can't make it up. And I say, this is a New York story. And we take them out, rotate them through the system, and they'd be back 24 hours later. And that's New York for you guys. This was a pleasure. I'd love to stay 2 more hours because I have a dentist appointment, and I'll do anything. Ask me
tell
another
everybody where
hard
they can find you. No, tell everybody where, we'll get you out of here because we're going to wrap it up on our own. But tell everybody where to find you, how they can get in touch with you on your social media.
Absolutely.
They can get-
Absolutely.
follow you.
Hey, folks, you can reach, well, you can find me at 9 a.m., from 9 to 10 a.m. on AM 970 under Pat Brosnan live from the Batcave. And it truly is a Batcave. It's 30 feet underground under a nondescript building somewhere in Gotham. If you missed the show, it's 9 to 10 Eastern time. You can catch us on a global podcast. We're on all the social media aggregators. We're on iHeart and Rumble and YouTube. And check us out. We do some good stuff. I get some great guests. I'm certain I'm going to have these gentlemen on. I'm hoping to have you guys on, and we'll reverse the seats. And that's where you can find me, live from the Batcave.
Thank you so much.
Signing out,
Pat.
guys.
It's been a
My pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. God
My
bless.
pleasure, guys. Thank
Take
you.
care.
All the best.
Yeah, that was awesome, man. Yeah. As the chat said, he's great. One of the things that I queued up, are you leaving? You got to go take a piss or something?
No, I'm good. Let's go.
One of the things I was gonna bring up when you guys were talking about, if you work in a small city, you got a small place like that, you're not getting that kind of experience. We mentioned it at the beginning of the show. We'll bring up Justice X Academy, training opportunities for officers, especially if you're that type of officer that's not getting the information or not getting the experience through your job. There's all kinds of different presenters. There's interdiction guys. If you're not in an area that runs an interdiction type team or squad or canine stuff like that, learn about it, and you may actually learn about it, make some connections with other agencies, and you can move on from your agency that maybe you don't get that kind of experience or that kind of running around. It's a place that got you the job, got you certified, but maybe it's time. You've got a niche, you've got something that you want to affect in your career, you want to do. Justice X Conference in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina might be a place to get that started. And it runs from the 21st, the graphic that shows on the screen, the 21st to the 24th, all kinds of classes. That's the schedule that Kenny put out. And Counterculture Anti-Hero is going to be running Anti-Hero broadcast through while you guys are there. I'll be behind the computer, hopefully, assisting. And then Counterculture is going to do some live stuff, and we're going to be meeting and greeting and saying what's up.
Yeah, we'll have a booth, merch, live streaming during the event. Probably have to pop out while they're doing the classes, obviously. But that 23rd is Wednesday, right?
23rd is the Thursday.
Okay, the 22nd. The night of the 22nd, Wednesday, we're getting flyers made up. There'll be a live show at a bar about 15 minutes outside of Myrtle Beach in Conway called the Rowdy Rooster. Former deputy, did like 18 years, and then he started a pretty big country bar up there. So for that night, we'll do like a live meet and greet event with everybody from the conference.
First time I'm hearing about it. I love the communication.
No, you're a liar. We talked about it yesterday.
During the show, you probably talked about it.
Actually happened yesterday. I finalized it yesterday, but
okay.
You're going to be there anyway. The flyer's not made up, so I just
pulling me around
to make Justin feel better. I just finalized it last night with the owner of the business, and this is the first everybody's hearing about it. That's the actual event and the location, and we're going to do a flyer. We're going to have Natalie make up a nice thing. Your donut will be on it. Everybody will be happy. But yeah, there'll be a live event that while we're up there as well. And I know Clint is coming. Can't wait to meet Clint. I know Jack is coming.
Yep, Jack's going to be there hanging out.
Come hang out. It's going to be a good event.
And maybe if we can make Jerry Worms feel bad enough, he'll make it. If we can get his house figured out and all that kind of stuff.
It's going to be tough for Jerry.
Yeah,
we're going to do our next event will be, we're shooting for June in West Palm after that one.
Good. Cause I'll be gone most of that month anyways. I'll be in Ireland. I'll be in Ireland for 10 days.
What part of the month? What part of the month?
Fucking 17th to the 27th.
All right, so we'll shoot for the beginning of June.
Yeah, just definitely not the 6th because that's my wife's birthday, so she's not going to give me up for that.
So maybe
it's a crazy month. Yeah. Flag. Do it on Flag Day.
We'll see. But that was the chat was awesome. Good questions coming through the chat. That was a great guest. Tyler always makes fun of me whenever I have anybody who's over like the age of 50 in mind to like have as a guest. He's like, "Oh, you got to interview this old guy, blah blah blah." Well, Nick G Money set that up. big props to G Money for setting that
Yeah.
guest up. And then we talked to him, and I was 2 minutes into talking to him, and I'm like, bro, this dude's a fucking G, man. This dude is a fucking G. This is the guy. So if you hear some of the stuff he talked about, is you just know, like, he did some real shit. Like, no,
Yeah, I was pulling up some of the one court case that he was talking about with how the girl had gotten shot and it kind of wrapped around her forehead and stuff. I was trying to do some background and see if I could pull it up, not to cross-reference his claims, but just to see if I could get pictures or anything from that, just for.
That's the kind of guy that needs to get in front of, like, somebody like Dude Duder just said. Like, that's the kind of guy that needs to get in front of these young kids, because these young kids are being influenced by other social media cops, and we're 2 generations, I think, removed from the real FTO, where you walked a beat and they said, hey, good luck, go out there and find somebody. Or when I got dropped off in the hood and they said, bring back 5 names of dudes standing around. Like, we've gotten away. That they need to hear from that guy how important patrol is, because I'm just a meme guy. I'm a moron. Like, that guy can relay that information. Like, patrol is the backbone, man. That's where the best times are had. That's the most important job. And then when you really get good at that, then you go to the robbery unit, then you go to the gang unit, then you go to the narc unit. Like, but go be a cop, man. Learn the job.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that recently. Me getting kicked out of the media unit and all that kind of stuff, and going back to the road, I was bummed. But when I got back to the road, it was open arms from all the guys going, "Welcome back to the unit that everybody's kicked back into." And it really kind of made a full circle to my career, and I loved it. I had fun working the road. I mean, there's those days it's fucking raining, people getting in an accident in a major intersection, directing traffic in the rain. Yeah, those are not all the time, but getting out there, mixing it up, dealing with the crazies of the world, dealing with people's problems on the worst day of their life, and it's the 4th time that you've dealt with something very similar in the same day, and you're just like, all right, let me help you get through this, let me work your way through this, and it was great, and so patrol, but it's a lot of the new guys are jumping ship, running to other agencies because they're like, I'm going to have more opportunity to get into specialized units and stuff. And, may not always be the case, so.
No, you got to do your time. And it's, I don't know. I mean, that's where you learn. And that's, if you're not having fun doing that, the other jobs are just more responsibility, and you're just going to get more frustrated because you're still not going to have the experience you need to do that stuff. So, I went in the dope after 5 years. My number's 5. After 5 years of working,
5-year itch.
You got but you know the job well enough to make that transition to something new. It's like, okay, but we got FTOs that are 2 years on. We got detectives that are 18 months on and 12 months
or
on.
Sergeants sometimes that are like 4 years on or 5 years on, because you can make sergeant after 3 years if you have a bachelor's degree in some places. So
Crazy.
It's like, and I have a bachelor's degree. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be a good cop or that I'm going to be a good leader.
There's a female sergeant promoted here that had like 18 months on the road, went to like SVU detective, then went to like never wrote a search warrant back there. Actually, one of the funniest stories was she didn't know how to write a search warrant. So she called one guy and said, hey, so-and-so told you to do the search warrant. And then called another guy and said, hey, so-and-so needs you to help him do the search warrant. And she got those 2 guys together to do the search warrant for her. And then they were she's
gonna make a great major.
They found out, they're like, you were supposed to write it. And she actually admitted, I'd never done one as a detective for 2 years, and I don't know how. She's a sergeant now. She's a sergeant now.
Yeah.
So it's like, no job. Today is not leg day. I've actually already been to the gym this morning for 500 calories of cardio, and I'm going to go back, skip leg day today. I'm going to give leg day a break.
Yeah. It's, just 3 leg days a week is just too much.
Tomorrow's leg day.
Tomorrow's leg day. Feisty Goat. Thank you. I know this was really the greatest show because I was one of the co-hosts. So I'm sure that, oh no, not my stories, his stories. My bad. So there's been some requests in the chat that we need some FDNY. Nick says he's got a Philly firefighter that we can, people that put out real fires in Florida. Sadly, they don't put out real fires.
Yeah, we put them out before they get there, and then they get mad at us.
Yeah.
I get the fire extinguisher, the hose out, and I'm like, hey guys, I got it. And then they show up all mad, and they put their fan up, and then they walk around in the gear for a little while, and they leave.
Shake their backs because it's beeping.
Tomorrow is Peach. Tomorrow, Peach will be in studio, and we will have the Kami on. So Marine versus Marine tomorrow morning.
No shit. Kami's still coming back. What are you guys
That's it.
paying him at this rate? You know, I mean, this guy, he's paying
made
off all
some
of his bills,
He
apparently.
made some reference about money, but he wants exposure. So right now it's we got Dom is always on Thursdays. We got the Kami, G Money, and then tomorrow night, CC will be in the house for a night shift. I don't know if Peach is staying or not. I know Gator's coming again. So we'll have a great show for tomorrow night. And yeah, I forget what we talk about. I just last night solidified that bar up there. So haven't even put anything out yet. I got to get he's supposed to send me his PNG for his logo. And then we are going to have Natalie put together a flyer, and then he'll put it out on socials. We'll put it out, but hopefully the guys from the conference will come. We got some guests coming. So maybe that'll be I won't get drunk either, I promise.
Yeah, you may have missed it on Patreon yesterday. Tyler did say he's doing the Commies podcast right now. So
he's on that guy's podcast?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It was a joke. Damn it. I should just let it run.
You'd have had me fucking convinced. I'm like, what?
No, it's Tyler is gay. Said, did Justin just say the Commies pulling a train on Tyler?
Probably
Something like that. But yeah, Tyler took the train up to San Francisco, and he's at the Commies luxury apartment doing his podcast. Wouldn't that be? Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to let me talk.
I need you to stand in the corner and face away from me for a minute. This feels weird.
But yeah, so and then I'm going up to fill in for you again on Thursday next week.
Sunday.
I'll be up.
I'm practicing. I got to practice. This is what we do. That's when you call the pit boss over when I have a straight flush, and he's got to come verify that big money I'm winning. So in the casino, the dealers usually. So I practice. I'm getting ready to win big money. I leave Sunday.
Nice. Yeah, it's Sunday. Where are you going on it?
Miami.
Oh, out of Miami? Oh, wave when you drive by.
Yeah, I'm going out of Miami. I leave Sunday, and I go to Private Island, day at sea, Cozumel, Grand Cayman, Jamaica, day at sea, and back. I will be attempting to stream and say hi to you guys. It's the only time I drink, which is on cruises. So I will be drinking. I will be gambling. I will be missing you all so much. I promise.
Oh, so you'll be, yeah. Well, you got to be able to get on to collab for all your reels that I'm making of you.
Oh, I pay for the internet. Yeah, I pay for that.
Next week, everybody, Donut Shop Podcast is going to be the Copville episode. There it is. I got Copville dropping next Tuesday at 7 a.m. He came on and talked to me. You all know his background. So it's
a little different too, right? I think it went very well.
Well, it wasn't the atypical, tell me about your career. It was, let's just talk shit. Let's talk. Yeah. So I just cut a reel a little bit ago. For your first one. So that'll go out on Tuesday. So yeah, everybody check out Copville or Mike coming on that we recorded a few weeks ago when I was up there. So
yeah, good. I liked that one. That was a good one. Like it wasn't, it was pretty laid back, I think. And those ones I try to be more normal too. Like, I'm a character sometimes, but I think that one was pretty normal. I had my Job is Dead shirt on. You guys can buy that at copvilleot.com. So
it's right there. It's up front and center in that reel. I was like, oh man, it is right there. The microphone's not even blocking it. Like it's like,
dude, I got a fucking message last night because I do drop ship. Tyler makes fun of me. Some dude got like a fucking 4x4 mudding truck shirt. He's like, bro, I didn't order this. And I'm like, dude, I don't sell that. So I don't know how you ended up with it. He actually ordered the Job is Dead shirt, and he ended up with like a truck, like a fucking 4-wheel, like a mud truck. And I'm like,
no
what?
Shit.
So
you're in the trucking business too.
Slave workers from China sent the wrong shirt out, so we'll get that fixed up.
from factory America, that's good. No, Mike did not talk about air assault school. No, I don't think you mentioned it once. Like I said, we didn't really go into your background because your background is fairly well known through many other podcast issues.
I got told that this morning. I was demoted. And
you
got the disgraced cop that had to quit. I got all that, and some guy hating on me this morning.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you are.
Gotta love it. So tomorrow is 11 a.m. Don't forget. Justin, what are you doing tomorrow? Nothing.
Nothing. Just because I'm
You're
retired.
retired. Yeah, you're retired.
Let's check. Let's consult the calendar here. Tomorrow. Ooh, I have a doctor's appointment. They have to go over my blood work to tell me my testosterone is too high, thanks to HPTRT.
Great testosterone. Before we end the show, I got a great testosterone story.
Go
I
for
go to
it.
the gym with this dude. He's yoked. Ryan, just jacked. And every time I talk, I'm like, bro, you're 46. I'm like, there's no fucking way you're just on testosterone. He's like, nah, bro, testosterone, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, there's no way. No way. Or there's something wrong. So he goes, I sent him, he's looking at VA disability. So I sent him to my guy for sleep apnea test. He comes back yesterday, he pulls me aside like 2 days ago. He's like, bro, you're never going to believe this. I said, what? He's taking 3 cc's a week. He misreads the label and he said it was supposed to be 0.25 3 times a week for 9 years. Bro,
He's been yoking
900 milligrams of test a week. His fucking blood was like oil. His blood pressure was like 230 over like 140. It was so bad that they sent him. They're like, you got to go donate blood like right now. He got on the blood bus. They're like, you got to get off the bus. You can't donate blood. It's too thick. So we had to go to like a clinic.
We have to use bigger needles.
Yeah, we need to fuck it. So he had to go to the clinic and fucking have it removed. And I was talking shit. I'm like, bro, I fucking knew there ain't no way you were jacked like that off of 1 cc.
Test, just test.
There's no fucking. And come to find out, he's been taking triple. Like that's bodybuilder. Like when you're doing a show, you're running like
a super cycle
like
of it.
900 tests a week with some other stuff. And I'm like, can't wait to watch you like shrivel away, buddy. I'm like, I was on his ass. I'm like, you're a fucking liar, but that's my tech story. That's why you
I was so
TRT and get it done right.
Yep, and I was so worried about my hemocritin hemoglobin being too thick, and hurt myself just because I was borderline. This guy's probably double the legal limit, and oh my god, man!
Yeah,
wow.
Like at my peak, I've barely maybe done when I ran one massive one, maybe almost that much, but for like 8 weeks and done. This dude's been doing it for years. I'm like,
wow.
Good things to that. Well. I'm the
right,
you gonna hit the button? You gonna hit the button?
Yeah, I'll hit it. Do a little plug for myself. Don't forget donutshoppodcast.com to catch your videos, all the videos, links to my all the podcast things. And now, I mean, since counterculture folks are loading videos, you can catch videos there too. So wherever you want to catch podcasts, donutshoppodcast.com. Like, subscribe, follow, all that kind of good stuff. And I'll see you guys next Thursday on Anti-Hero. You'll see Mike tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning. Appreciate it.
JV team for life.